Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kiwi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Kiwi, and today I have Jordan Duncan. Jordan Duncan is one of our driver recruiters, and I'm excited to hear his personal story, but also some of the things that he didn't expect coming into the driver recruitment world, and a little bit about Kiwi Brothers that he didn't know, and he's been with us just over a year now, so excited to hear all of that. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So I always think when you're looking at drivers and trying to hire drivers, right, there's so much that goes into it, and I think from anyone that's never been in a Class A or had a Class A, most job applications are pretty cut and dry, right? Like you fill out a piece of paper, maybe it's just formality, so they have some social security numbers and stuff to file away. But in the driver recruiting side, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially given we hire from such a broad area. It's not as cut and dry as maybe applying to a brick and mortar location in your hometown. You're not walking in and filling out a piece of paper. You're doing this mostly digitally. You're having conversations with people who could be states away from you, trying to kind of gauge their interests, what motivates them, what they're looking for, and trying to really kind of match that with what you have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different ball game. And I think, we'll get into that a little bit more, but I don't want to steal all the thunder on that because there's a lot that goes. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, right? Because like you said, you're talking to people all over the country, maybe even up in Canada or Alaska is far away, like where you live, a little bit about you, your family, all that.
Sure. So I actually grew up here in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, where we have our operations center and a terminal. I graduated from Mercer County High School right here in Harrodsburg. Moved away after high school, went and obtained a bachelor's degree from Campbellsville University in Central Kentucky. That's where I met my wife. So we kind of stayed around that area for about 9 years from start to finish. And then we moved back here to Harrodsburg to be closer to family and friends. We have 2 cats and a puppy recently that we just obtained. It was a stray pup that just wandered up to us, and we've had it since.
Just walked up to the door and was like, let me in?
Yeah, it actually walked up to it'd be my sister-in-law's door. It was kind of in bad shape. We kind of nurtured it back a little bit, and now it's kind of stuck around with us. Her name's Aurora. We call her Rory for short. She's been an excellent little dog, a little Australian Shepherd mix. That's kind of most of me, about my family and stuff like that. Pretty normal guy, I feel like. I have a bunch of hobbies that range from sports to outdoor stuff to anything with a motor. That's part of the reason I'm in the trucking world. I love anything with wheels and a motor, or maybe even not wheels. I think you and I share some love for airplanes and
little off the ground.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff that I'm into. I feel like if you have a hobby that you're super excited about, I can be excited about it too, because I've probably dabbled in it in some way or another.
That's awesome. Having all kinds of different points of interest, really help you have all kinds of things to talk about, right? Like it's easy to pick up any conversation and be relatable. And like you said, getting your pilot's license, right? You're still working on that, or did you obtain it?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm still working on it. I haven't quite got there just yet. I'm about 18 and a half hours in, so not super far along. Took a little bit of a break due to the financial side of things. As you know, it's a little bit pricey in the aviation world, but yeah, still doing some ground study, all that kind of stuff as well. So still got a long way to go, but a little bit at a time.
If you're not busy enough at work and then to take on some studying after work, I guess you're kind of used to that studying from college and all that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to study anyway. It's something, it's not really a subject you learn in school. So you kind of, if you have an interest in it, it's really fun kind of to learn about all the different things. And there's so much more that, maybe looking at it from the outside, you didn't know, like you're having to learn about weather and aerodynamics and navigation, like I mean, it kind of makes sense when you think about it, but like you don't really think about the academic side of it before you actually get into it. And then it's just like a mind blowing educational experience you have to take on by yourself.
Yeah, it is. It's completely flips it upside down. And I thought, when I had done some of my study in the aviation world, I thought, okay, I've driven truck. Everything's going to be very relatable. North, south, west, and east, right? What more do I need to know? Kind of going into it naive like that. And like you said, there's a high level of knowledge that you have to be prepared and safe. For me, it's been really eye-opening because I tried to translate some of that back to trucking. And in trucking, I feel like weather in some of those situations, they pop up quick, right? I mean, maybe not quick. You might know a snowstorm's coming, but you got to work your way through it. But in aviation, it's a little bit different because it can be life or death in a situation that happens in 10 minutes or less. But trying to relate that to trucking and knowing like there's got to be limits, right? And when do you pull over? When is it enough to say this just isn't the right thing to do right now? Some of it growing up was kind of cowboyish. Like if you can see and it's not over like your bumper, you're going, like you're going to get through the snow and just take your time. But so it helped open my eye a little bit. Like you can't take those mindset and bring it to the other side because it could set you up for failure. So then I tried to take let's be more cautious and diligent and pre-planning over to this side. And yeah, it's interesting, but that's an awesome hobby. Like you said, there's a lot of work to put into it. Just having that discipline to go through and do that extra training and studying is pretty cool. So with Rory, is this your first stray dog that you've rescued, or rescue dog, I guess you could say?
Actually, no. Unfortunately, not unfortunately that we had him. We had a Chow mix for about 3 years. He was a young dog as well. He had terrible allergies and had a skin condition that ultimately led to us having to put him down like end of last year. So roughly about December of 2023, we had to make that decision after he had kind of scratched himself to a point where he just wasn't going to be able to recover very easily. It was across his neck and he was just hurting so bad. He was trying to get relief. It was a bad deal. Long story short on that, we weren't really looking to replace him. He was a rescue as well. But again, this dog showed up. Our sister couldn't care for the dog at her apartment. They don't allow pets. She was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to just leave it out there. It's one wonderful thing about my loving wife. She has a heart for animals and people and just nurturing in such a way that she just has a heart for it. So she was like, well, bring it here. We'll get it back to health. And my duty as a husband includes also loving through those situations and welcoming stray animals into my house. So both of our cats were rescues and the dog as well. So we end up with more strays than the average person, I think.
That's okay. I think there's a soft spot in everybody's heart for, those dogs especially, right? And we've had several drivers that have taken dogs and nurtured them back, or maybe not nurtured them back from like poor health, but maybe took what is, I guess, kind of fostering one until somebody can adopt it. Sure. We have a driver that I've been a part of where he's brought a dog from state to state for other people, right? Like, hey, this person's willing to adopt a dog and I'm a part of this group. I'll pick it up when I get over there. So give me a week or two and then I'll carry it with me until we get passing through or a spot where we can meet. And so we've been in the trucking world. It's not all freight. Sometimes it's four-legged pets that we help get from A to B and make sure that they have a home and that they're safe. But kind of like it was meant to be for you a little bit. One, you did what you could for the one, and now you got another one that kind of can't really fully replace that void, but get another one back in there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. We definitely miss his name was Kenobi, so we called him Obi for short. We have a thing for like the Marvel, Disney, Star Wars type names. I don't know, but yeah, we miss him a whole lot. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of happened. Wasn't really something we were going out of our way to do, but yeah, sometimes situations just find you in life, and you kind of got to make the best of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, like I said, not only have some of our drivers helped rehome dogs or with a foster, but many of our drivers do have pets that ride with them. And I'm sure that's a question you probably get often throughout the recruiting process, right?
Absolutely. Yep. driving is just kind of different than most things that you do, right? Like you're kind of out for extended periods of time a lot of times. You may not be able to bring a spouse or a loved one for whatever reason. You may just want a companion to be with you on the road. We do allow pets here at Kiwi Bros. That's something that we do get asked about a whole lot. They do become your companions and your travel partners, or we get calls all the time. My pup has been in the truck since the first day I got him, and that's been 10, 15 years ago, and they grow to learn that lifestyle just like drivers do. I mean, it's what they know, and being with their person is important too. So yeah, we get asked that quite a bit, and thankfully we do have that policy in place here.
Yeah. When it comes to being out there alone, putting miles down and away from home, like that's your closest thing to home sometimes is your pet. And I'm grateful that we're able to allow that for sure. So like I said earlier, you had been here just over a year now. You didn't have any driver recruiting experience per se right before. So you kind of got to walk into this industry and learn about it as you started to take on recruiting drivers. What was that like? What was it like coming into this industry? Was it kind of like, wow, I didn't realize this was this big, or what did you learn right away that you didn't expect?
Like I said, I did grow up in Harrodsburg, so I always would drive past the Kiwi Bros trucking terminal here, and it always, again, the big beautiful red trucks. You have to have a bit of an appreciation for them. But walking into the industry was a little bit different. I'd kind of dipped my toes in through a few different avenues prior. I kind of dipped my toes in with one of my former positions. I was kind of in an operations role with a heavy focus on shipping. So I was working day to day with drivers, kind of managing a small fleet for a manufacturing facility, and we made corrugated material, so cardboard, packaging, stuff like that. A lot of the time was spent basically doing supply chain stuff from start to finish of materials coming in and then produced materials going out to customers. And so I found myself in a role wearing a bunch of different hats, from moving trucks around the yard to ordering materials to dealing with drivers day to day, stuff like that. And it really kind of opened my eyes to a little bit about what, load planning, what it takes to plan a load, what it takes to, overcome situations that arise on the road, right? Because in trucking, stuff's going to happen sometimes. A flat tire on the side of the highway all of a sudden becomes a huge priority, or whatever the case is, when you're trying to meet those times for your customer and keep the business moving. So from the business side of things, I kind of got to learn quite a bit about what goes into that, as well as what fuels drivers to want to do this. Or for some people, the thought of being away from home for a couple weeks at a time just blows their mind, and other people wouldn't have it any other way. So just kind of learning those motivations, stuff like that, was very helpful in what I do now. I really kind of learned, again, I wore a bunch of different hats. I was doing sales and customer facing positions as well. I kind of learned that recruiting is such a good blend of all of the things that I really enjoyed about what I was doing. Getting to talk to drivers, getting to, be helpful in a situation where somebody needs a better place to be. Unfortunately, we get calls all the time. Hey, this company completely lied to me, or I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. They won't get me a ride out of here. Whatever the case is, it's always good to kind of be able to be in a position where we can help those drivers to move their careers forward, put them in a place where they get to pursue flatbedding, and maybe they've never done that before. Or there's a bunch of different situations that recruiting is really a culmination of all the things that I loved about what I did. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be in a position to work not only in a position that does fulfill so many of those things for me, but also with a company that puts me in a position to where I don't have to lie to get drivers here. I don't have to worry about, are we offering the things that drivers want? Because we were able to say yes so many times when other companies may not be able to. Really, recruiting is something that I've fallen into a very grateful position for, because I'm able to have those conversations with drivers every day, find positions that work for them, and sometimes, honestly, sometimes I know that the call may not be going anywhere, but they need somebody to listen to them. And just having the opportunity to be there for people in this way has really been a true blessing for me in my career, and the opportunity to do this every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you said, that having that passion, the passion isn't about just filling seats, right? Your passion is to help advance people or give them an opportunity that maybe is better fitting, right? And I know that about you, and I'm confident to say is like you're an honest person. You're not there, like you said. I believe that this industry has a lot of recruiters that do that. Like, hey, you got to do this, and then if you didn't read the fine print, well, that's your fault when you're here, and it's not. The way I work and the way you work and the way our company works is very transparent, right? And we're very hands-on after you complete your process with them, right? And the driver, it's a mutual agreed process, and then you guys do your paperwork and everything checks out, and then we, as operations, get to work with the driver and get your feedback. That's just what we want to do too, right? Like, can we do the best thing we can to help you advance? And maybe that is, like you said, a driver that's never had any flatbed, no chaining, no straps, and he gets the best training that I believe in the industry from someone that is an expert, Sean and his team, and they go through that one by one to make sure that driver's confident, setting them up for success again, right? It kind of falls right off of where you're at. Like, I want to give you this opportunity. That's how we like to look at it. Sean goes through that orientation. I want to give you the opportunity. And then in operations, our objective is to do the same thing. We want to give you the opportunity, whether that's to just find your niche in flatbed and continue to work that, the typical flatbed and step deck trailer Conestoga, or maybe your dream is, hey, I've had my license for 10 years and I want to learn open deck so that way I can progress into maybe heavy machinery or an RGN or in our heavy hauled side. And you're able to paint that pathway, and to give those advancement opportunities in maybe an industry that sometimes runs out of those. Right. If you're at let's say, nothing against van or reefer, right? But those are boxed in trailers. The gauge of that trailer is like what you fit in it, what ships. In contrary to that, we do a little bit opposite. Like, sometimes you might just haul that simple type freight, and the next day or next week, we're saying, hey, there's a 14-foot wide load. Here's what we do, and here's how we're going to do it. And you get that opportunity and kind of change up. And not only that, but also I think of some of the physical attributes that some of these people pursue. Like you said, you're putting 11 hours a day behind the wheel, and when you're done, you're tired, you're gassed, you're going, well, how am I supposed to fit in some physical work here, dinner, shower, and then get back on the road after my 10, where the other people are saying, hey, I can move my body, I can move chains, I can get a good sweat on. We've had drivers. I love all the stories. I was talking with a driver last week, and he does push-ups every other day in the hundreds. And I was like, wow, because he's like, this is my physical work. I have to move my body. And on the days he's not doing push-ups, he's doing squats. And so he was rotating back, and I hear all kinds of different stories that energize me to continue going on. But it all starts in the recruiting side, like you're saying, and that's what's important. And for anyone that is just learning about Jordan, or is maybe saying, hey, I've never been or never heard of Kiwi, and this is my first time catching on, I want to see what it's all about, you're going to get an honest answer from Jordan, and you're going to get it straight. And like you said, I think sometimes it's hard to say no to somebody that might not be a good fit, right? That's like the opposite of what a recruiter does. That's the opposite of how our minds works when you're in a position that is a recruiter, to say, no, like, I'm going to convince you to do this. That's what the stigma is, where I believe yours is much more of a puzzle piece. Like, are you the right fit? Are we the right fit? And can we walk away together saying that we understand what this is? Because we want a partnership and we want it to be long lasting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just to touch on that too, I mean, you're exactly right. My mentality is much more centered around finding the right fit for both the company and the driver, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a business, and this industry keeps on turning. If it's not the right fit, that doesn't typically lead to a long, healthy career. There's burnout, there's needing a change of pace. There's all kinds of stuff. Life happens, stuff at home happens. If it's not the right fit for you, it's not the right fit for you. I mean, it's nothing personal, but we want you to have the opportunity to be successful here and have that opportunity to grow your career and be in a place that, I mean, flatbedding is different than other commodities. I mean, it just is, just like you were saying. We push the boundaries of what we pull a little bit as far as dimensions. And like you said, there's no box over top of that flatbed that says you can't do it. Now there may be DOT regs that say you can't do it, but I mean, we're pushing the boundaries and moving things that are just impossible to move in other ways. And it really does take somebody with the mentality of, hey, I see a challenge and I want to accomplish that and defeat that challenge and come out victorious on the other side of it. And it takes somebody who's willing to do that safely, somebody who really just has the attitude of I can do it. And people who have that mentality and mindset and they go into it thinking, I'm going to be successful at this. You probably are. That's what it takes. You need to have that mindset and the ability to say, I'm going to get home safely. I'm going to get the load there safely, and we're going to get it done. You know what I mean? It's going to take a little bit more on the physical side than maybe other commodities. That can be a positive or a negative for some people, but it's different. It is what it is. It's unique. It's why I enjoy the open deck side.
The feedback I get from drivers, and so from a high level, you would think, right, pay is always important, right? And it is, but some of the feedback that people, when they come into flatbed, or maybe they're in flatbed, but they want to get into like what we haul, is the word cool. And I've, for a while, I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I've had situations where I've had drivers say, no, I don't want to haul that load, even though it pays me better. I want to haul this load because it's cooler. And I started to learn, and when you think about it, the stuff we haul, right, like running through it, it could be from skid steers to bulldozers to excavators to oversized mining equipment to literally, you can kind of picture it if you see it on the shoulder of a road for a construction or job site or pipe or somebody digging a crane above the building. Like, those are the type of commodities we move, as well as lumber and siding and all of the, the building product, steel. So we touch on the normal general type cargo, and then we move into the construction side, which gives you that cool factor. And I thought it was awesome because for a little while it kept coming up. I was just like, don't you have anything cooler in the planning side? I was like, well, help me understand what that means more, of like cooler. Like, I thought it was, kind of got focused on, it was all about money, and it really wasn't. It was like, of course, money has to be the fundamental, right? It's kind of like the foundation, right? It's got to be there, or it doesn't work. But when it came to that, or what type of windows on the house, it's either like, can I haul some cool construction equipment, or, do I have to take this load? And it was just interesting to see. So once again, like, drivers, as for example, being a driver, like when you're going down the road, you're always looking at trucks that are going on the oncoming way. You're always rubbernecking, kind of like, what is that? What is that load? Or you see some flashing lights, you're like, what do we got? Who's hauling that, and where? And if you're that driver that's doing that often, and you want to get that cool factor, I think that's what's cool about, no pun intended, what we do, is that opportunity to change it up. And then I love how you touched on the safety side. We, as a company, have always kind of prided ourselves on safety, but it was hard to do on a macro level, right? Like, we can talk about it in meetings, we can send emails, and how do we invest in that? And so we took a big leap at the beginning of the year, changing our telematics and the way we do things to focus on safety and to have that high level commitment. Because at the end of the day, like, if that isn't your driving factor, it's going to bite you. Like, it will. For us to say, this is our commitment, this is what we're doing, and invest in motive, we did it, we followed through. Those are some of those uncharted territories in trucking where you're like, what is this going to mean? Like, we can read statistics, we can test it, we can do it, but to roll it out on a high level and go that way, and man, like, I feel, and I'll say it again, safe is a sustainable way, right? That's the way to sustainability. You have to be safe. And when you find drivers that pride themselves on that, when they come here and they measure their own safety score and how can they get better on a week over week, or period over period for our incentive, like, how do I get better? What do I do? You hear our office staff talking about it and trying to help coach a driver through, like, hey, you have very minor things popping up. If you can control these, your score will go up to 100. And even to think of a score of a 100 being unattainable, it isn't, right? We have many people that do that. And when you sit back for a minute, as not a truck driver or anybody that drives a personal car, just think how many times they reach up and grab their cell phone, or how many times they do that. And for a driver to hit a score of 100, to not have any close following, to not have any unsafe lane changes, to watch their speeding, stop sign violations, cell phone usage, distracted driving, like, they are in control of their equipment and they know their surroundings and they're doing things impeccable. And it gives you a great sense of pride to see that. Like, that's one of the main things we look at now. And so safety, big thing for us. And then the next thing is, I think it's funny, the industry as a recruiting has changed substantially in the last let's just say the last decade, maybe more recent 5-7 years, it's gotten much more web based and everything. But it was kind of funny. I remember back when we were hiring prior to all of this technology, my uncle would put an ad in the paper, and that's how we would hire drivers. It was word of mouth,
Right.
or it was throw an ad in the paper, and you'd go into that classifieds, and there'd be that little, what I'm saying, the 1/2 inch box by 2 inches wide of like, join us for this job, and that was our way of finding drivers. If we didn't have a reference, that was prior. Everything would be like, hey, I have an uncle, I have a cousin, or I have a friend that's looking for, and we would grow through that. That's how we grew. And it's just a whole different world now. So as a driver that maybe isn't on social media or any of that, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Jordan?
Sure. So we have a couple of different options. Of course, we have our website at kiwibros.com if you are looking to just kind of look around, see what we have to offer. There's also links to things like our social media, including this podcast. We have our YouTube on there where you can see people you'd learn from, work with, stuff like that. I know you mentioned Sean in our orientation and training team earlier. Sean is a mastermind at what he does. Genuinely, I think he is a great resource for our company, and he teaches in a way that like you just feel so confident in what he's telling you, because like he's been there, done that, and he's telling you the truth. You just have no doubt in your mind he's telling you what you need to know. But he's on our YouTube, and I always encourage drivers, if you're wanting to learn from some of the people that you work with, go on there, look up some of our YouTube videos. These people are around, either at our Duluth location. You may see yourself on there out of Kentucky or wherever. These are people you work with. These are some of our team members. You're going to get to know these people really well, and you can just kind of see the through lines of that family-owned company, that family atmosphere that I think Kiwi does very, very well. And I don't just say that as a recruiter. I say that as an employee too, right? Like I work here as well, and I deal with the same people every day. So you can go to our website at kiwibros.com. We also have a recruiting line set up that Sherry, our other recruiter, and myself both monitor. And that number is 218-625-8451. You can call my direct or text my direct cell phone. It's 218-451-1688. You can have direct access to me if you have any questions or anything like that. Just to throw a short snippet, I know she's not on the podcast today, but Sherry's also a great addition to Kiwi Bros Trucking. Very, very diligent. She will help you in any way that she can. Don't be afraid to reach out to either one of us. We're both very willing to help you. We're both trying to put you in the right spot and help you through the process, as seamlessly as possible. We don't want you to feel like it's a burden to go through the application process. We want you to feel confident in the team that you're joining and the process, and that, we've got your back from day one. You can reach out to us that way. If you don't feel like rewinding and getting that number again, you can go to our website. There's a contact number on that page as well. And there's also a join our team tab that you can click on to see some opportunities that we have.
Yeah. I like what you said about the videos and the point in case the podcast, right? Listen to a few episodes, learn the people that you work with, learn about the people you work with, learn who they are, what they do, or the videos, and just really get you're doing an interview without having to interview anybody. You get to learn who you want to work with and see if it's the right fit, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's the number one thing, is getting the right fit. We want a long-term relationship and partnership. We want you to be prosperous and a great outcome, and we want to learn about, that's what I love about a lot of our drivers. Our driver managers know a lot about them, right? From family to their dogs. They come into our office and they show what they're proud of and what they've accomplished, or what their kids or grandkids or their spouse, there's nothing to hold back. You're not talking to a computer all day or getting notes from your driver that it's a personal side of it, right? The point in case of the podcast, keep it personal. And that's just what we try to do and focus on that. As a driver here, some of the things that many people don't realize is, we still allow the drivers to help choose their route, right? Within boundary, right? Like nobody's saying you're going to go to Texas to go to Minnesota from North Carolina, but they get to pick the lanes that they run. They choose the routes. They choose where they want to fuel. We have preferred fuel locations, but they get a lot of options, a lot of choice. The truck is spec'd like an owner operator still, with many things in mind for fuel efficiency and economy and comfortable, all the things that make a driver successful out there. which I thought was standard equipment all day long. Like growing up with it, that's what every one of our trucks always had. It wasn't like, no, we don't have microwaves or, power inverters. That, I was like, yeah, of course we have a fridge. Like, well, who wouldn't have a fridge? Well, lo and behold, after you hire a few drivers that have come from companies that didn't have that, you start to understand that some of these mega fleets or some of these companies really hold all of that back, and they're
Absolutely.
just, they're out there trucking. So kind of just to give a taste of, who we are and what we are. And man, I really appreciate you coming on here. One last thing, any drivers that are on the fence or itching, or maybe just want to learn, what advice do you have for a driver to be successful, I guess? And I know you want to help people, so it doesn't have to be here, but just from what you hear and talking to so many different people, what can make a driver successful wherever they are, other than mindset, which you said earlier?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's probably my number one would be the mindset. Having that can-do attitude, being confident in your abilities and stuff like that, and being willing to kind of take on some challenge. I would also say that just in general in life, respect and communication go a really long way. Communication is paramount in this industry just because you're going to be the eyes and the ears of what's happening right in front of you, and you're going to be relaying that all the way through the chain from the customer to your driver manager to maybe recruiting for whatever stage you're in. But communication is paramount. If there's a setback, being able to communicate that up front is huge. I mean, and that goes for the application process. Hey, I had an incident a while back. Well, that saves you time. It makes it more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. You're really setting yourself up for success if you're willing to communicate and be honest with people. We do know the reputation that recruiters have, and it's something that I've wrestled with a little bit, coming into a position like this. Same with sales, stuff like that. But we really do try hard to break those stereotypes. We're people just like the guy sitting in the truck or the lady sitting in our truck, or at the end of the day, we're trying to make those connections. So we're really here to try to help you succeed. I think mindset is honestly the biggest thing. I want to just touch one more time on safety. Safety is one of the largest points of contention during the application process. If you have a very unsafe record, it's probably not going to be something that we're looking to move forward on. Just at the end of the day, we don't want to have a call come to us that, you're in danger or someone else is because of something that's happened. And, your job inherently as a driver is somewhat dangerous. You're in traffic all day. And it's not necessarily you, but the people around you. You touched on that on the last episode, I believe, with the motorcycle example. It's not necessarily the driver of that motorcycle, but there's people all around who are looking at their phones. They're looking at, what they dropped in the floor, their toddler threw at the back of their head. Whatever the situation is, there's always going to be something distracting drivers or whatever. And safety is absolutely paramount. At the end of the day, if you're going 3 miles an hour faster over the 11 hours you can drive, that's 33 miles. That 3 miles an hour may be the difference in a safe following distance and a not safe following distance. At the end of the day, we want you to be home safe. And it's absolutely paramount that you drive safely, whether it be for us or any other company. I think if you're safe, you have the mindset that you can do it and you're willing to go. And I haven't touched on this at all, so I'm sorry for throwing it in at the end, but we have several ladies that drive for us and do flatbedding. It's not something that's reserved for men. It's not something that you have to be, I'm 6'3", you don't have to be my size or bigger to be able to do it. Just show up with that attitude, be willing to learn, take the techniques that our team teaches and take it to the road. Your opportunities are waiting for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. That's just such a good way to look at it, no matter where you are, the safety side of it. And nobody wants to be involved in an accident. On our safety side, we go through kind of like debriefings and mock-ups and how do we respond. It's always, how do you prepare for something that you can't prepare for, which is hard to do. And that's why, like I said, we always have prided ourselves on a safe company, but we had to go to the next level because nobody wants to be involved in a situation that is just not good. And you just don't want that for anyone. And especially when you care about people and you start to want to see the best for everybody, you don't want somebody to have anything sneak up on them. And yeah, you can say it, come with that can-do attitude, have the right mindset that you can overcome anything. Our team will help you focus on safety. No matter where you're at, it's going to help you prosper, even outside of trucking, right? Do things right. And yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. There's a lot of good things you said. I think anybody that's needing bend an ear, like you said, you're there. and maybe that person and you can come to an agreement and say this is an opportunity that's going to better you, and we want to be a part of that. So once again, I thank you for taking the time today. I'm sure I'm going to have you again, or Sherry, maybe both of you, because Sherry has a cool story too, and I want to hear that and let her tell her story so everyone can learn more about her. But thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Keep Trucking Personal. If you've enjoyed today's episode with Jordan, please don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for future topics. Feel free to reach out to us at podcast@kiwibros.com. Until next time, happy trucking.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kiwi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.